Yeah, and how long have you got for that hook? Like, yeah, I think you mentioned a stat as well, didn't you, about that? How long have you got?
Yeah, so that one's quite interesting because like literally 2 or 3 years ago, we were talking about that it was 3 seconds. So it's really short. You've got to get people engaged. And
Hmm.
now that's come down to
Welcome to the Real eCommerce podcast, your go-to for straight talk and smart tips from the world of online retail.
As some might know, we've had a bit of a focus in the last 6 months on the food and drink industry. And we were lucky enough to have Olly, who's joined us today, work with us at our Lunch and Learn in Bournemouth. And he presented some really interesting things related to Meta, your social media advertising, the food and drink industry, and how perhaps Meta is changing, and some logic around how you can dynamically change your advertising now to attract customers that you can kind of keep in a bit of a keep net, and they become easier for you to market to. So I think the first part really was when we looked at your presentation, you drilled it down to there being like an addressable market who are interested in a certain cohort of like an interest, like a topic. So ours was food and drink, and you started with a presentation to say that there's an addressable market of around 20 million people in the UK. How did you get to that figure?
yeah, so just using Facebook's targeting, you can put in interests and then it will define the audience for you. So it was quite a broad audience. It was UK men and women
Mm-hmm.
aged 18 to 65 plus. Just literally put in food and drink as an interest, and it said that there was a possible audience of 20 million people to target an ad to.
Okay, and so that means that the ad reach, that's the possibility of the total ad reach, right?
Yeah, that's what the audience is that Facebook's identified as people who have shown an interest in food and drink topics.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be that they like a page related to it. There's some activity on their Facebook account relating to food and drink, but then that could also now be across like obviously Instagram and WhatsApp.
Okay.
um, that's what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Like what probably happens as well is that there's they track activity outside of Facebook, and there might be a little bit of a microphone spying as well.
Yeah, I think we've all noticed that. There's that famous one about the cat food, isn't there, where they don't have a cat and they start talking about cat food, and
Yeah,
oh, they've got ad for cat food.
yeah.
Um, but presumably that could be any kind of engagement I've had with. I could engage with a previous food and drink brand. I could be talking about food and drink in my posts. I could have liked a post that contains an image of food and drink. It's intelligent enough to pick all of that sort of things up and then like understand what my habits and interests are, right?
Yeah, it's super intelligent. Not only will it understand like what activity you've demonstrated with like food and drink, but also it'll understand your type of behavior. So like, are you a purchaser from an ad of food and drink? Are you an engager? Do you like comment on an ad? Do you share an ad? Do you watch videos like from beginning to end? So
Mm-hmm.
it'll even understand your behavior and interaction with those ads and posts on Facebook and Instagram.
Is there anything that detects when you take like a screenshot as well? Because like I'm forever taking screenshots of food recipes, rather than like trying to save it anywhere. I just take a screenshot of it. Is there some? Because the more I seem to do it, the more food recipes I seem to get.
I don't think so for a screenshot. I might be
Okay,
wrong. I know certainly on Snapchat, if you took a screenshot, then the person would be notified that a screenshot had taken place, so you could
okay,
see a like level of activity. But I suppose with that, like if you're taking a screenshot, then you're staying on that ad, so it's treating you as a high engager because you're probably staying on there longer than like a normal interaction.
yeah,
So
okay.
I might think you're really engaging with that post serve you more.
Is that why you see a lot of these posts now? They try and do like a spot the difference, or they try and do a like work out this problem or whatever. So you're like literally staring at it for ages, and then it makes it seem like it's a really engaging post.
Yeah, 100%. So like anything that stops you like that scroll.
Okay.
So, you stopping that scroll, you're showing intent that you're interacting with that post. So
Okay,
even if
that's good
you
to know.
might not do anything, like obviously the higher intent is that you actually I think it's like share, comment, and like are like the levels of engagement. But obviously, if
Mhm.
you've stopped, then that's also
And like a
yeah,
dwell time, how long you actually stop
yeah,
for, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And then the second thing you pointed out was 83% of users, or on Instagram users, said that they discovered a new food brand using that platform, or food and beverage brand in 2024. That's massive, isn't it?
yeah,
Um, and I'm the same. I bought a cereal recently because of Facebook marketing. I've bought some ready-made meals to stop me buying so many Deliveroos. And yeah, so all of those things have come from some sort of marketing on social media. I fall into that bucket. I mean, 83% of everyone listening should fall into that. But that is that high? Is that like a, if you looked at other industries, perhaps like home and garden, would you say that you would find a similar amount of engagement, or is that a particularly high one?
I think the overall stat is like similar to that across all industries.
Mhm.
That people discover new products within any industry on Instagram, but I think in particular food and drink is that's very high,
Mhm.
or that's higher than other industries. Obviously, the content and the industry is so engaging that it's very easy to, or it's very engaging content that people can create.
Mhm.
So, at the moment, for instance, the creatives that's doing really well is like reactions to my first bite. Like, and
Mhm.
people engage with that content, and then they want to understand more about the brand and the product. So it's a really good way to hook people into discovering new food and drink companies.
Yeah, and I guess it gets that dwell time, and you stop to look at the video as well, so it engages in that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And you can measure that dwell time as well. So you can do like hook rate. So you can understand in the first 3 seconds of like a video what your engagement was, how much your drop off was, how much your like CPMs increased or decreased. So you can be like really drill down in the analytics of like that dwell time and the hook
Mm.
rate.
Yeah, and how long have you got for that hook? Like, yeah, I think you mentioned a stat as well, didn't you, about that? How long have you got?
Yeah, so that one's quite interesting because, like, literally 2 or 3 years ago, we were talking about that it was 3 seconds. So it's really short. You've got to get people engaged. And
Mhm.
now that's come down to 1.7 seconds. And this is actually a report from like Meta themselves. So
Yeah.
this is what they're sharing with people. So it's literally in a split second, you've got to call out that audience. Something's got to happen in the video. You've got to be talking to the people that you want to be engaging with, or you want to like take an interest in your product or what your
Mm.
product will do. So yeah, it's really short, and you can imagine like there's so many people competing. There's so much noise in your feed that you've got to just stop that scroll.
Yeah. And I guess it's almost like that's how much user habits have changed in terms of their scrolling behavior, right? And their attention span, as it were. So you're saying a few years ago it was, a number of seconds, for 3 or 4 seconds, and now it's halved. So I think we probably all are a bit more impatient when we're looking through our feeds, because we're just looking for the things that catch our eye, stand out, and get our attention, right? So if you're not doing that, you're just going to get scrolled past.
Yeah, and that kind of plays into like the types of creatives that are doing really well too at the moment. Because
Mm.
like, again, like we don't expect an ad or a food and drink company to be coming into our feed as we're scrolling through.
Hmm.
And so when we see something that looks like high production, high professional video, we know in the back of our heads that's an ad. So you just keep scrolling through generally. But when like it looks like it might have been a raw video from friends and family, or it might be um humorous video, then you're going to give it more time and more attention. And that's why it's interesting that often it's the raw videos that actually do very well rather than the high production ones.
Yeah, I think you said it was because it may be someone that you know. You're like
Yeah,
stopping because you think it might be someone you know, even though it's an ad, but because
yeah,
it's done in like a novice way,
yeah.
it draws your attention to thinking it's someone you might sort of recognize or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, And, again, like people just literally holding that, like, these are large brands as well. That's why the user generated content does very well, because it's, a bit rawer. People are just doing a selfie video.
Mm.
Again, you're flicking through and you're like, oh, it looks like a low production video, so it must be one of my friends. And then you stop, or they've called an audience out straight away. So it's
Mhm.
those type of tactics which work really well at the moment in stopping that scroll.
Yeah, that's something that you touched on as well last week, is calling that audience out early, so you're kind of like directing your ads at the people you're aiming at, and you're almost alienating other people, but you're doing that deliberately, right?
You're doing that deliberately, yeah, because like the way Meta's evolving now, they're almost like removing as much of the filters as they can,
Hmm.
and you have the ability to filter it still, but you're kind of working against the way that it wants to work.
Hmm.
So in a sense, you want to allow it to be as broad as possible. And when I say broad, like it can almost go to as large an audience as possible. That's how like Meta wants to optimize, because it wants to like put your ad into different pockets of people and understand where it gets the traction. And then when it gets some traction, it will move the attention and spend away from those people that are not resonating with it into those that are.
Hmm.
And the best way of directing that is you're giving Meta like a bit of direction, like go and serve it to whatever audience you want, and optimize in the best way that you can. But I'm going to call out, um, non-alcoholic drink lovers straight
Hmm.
away, and I'm going to call that out in the first 1.7 seconds.
Hmm.
So Facebook kind of understands, or it will quickly gather momentum in the non-alcoholic
Hmm.
drinkers. So you're just giving it a bit of a nudge in the right direction, and that seems to be working really well at the moment.
Okay, so it's almost cutting the time down for Facebook to decide how best to serve your ads. You're almost like, yeah, like you say, weighting it a little bit, giving it a bit of a bias.
Yeah, you're getting results quicker. You're getting a better return on your investment, and yeah, you're just kind of getting to that premium audience as quickly as possible, like you say.
Yeah. And so you say that that's one of the things that's happening. So they're almost taking an automated performance adjusting campaign now. They're doing all that for you. So you start with an audience, but a broader audience than you would normally. And then you obviously do the call out, which allows you to have a steer on where that automation goes, but then Facebook kind of takes over and does the real targeting from then.
Yeah, it's kind of like the complete opposite to what worked about 5 years ago, where you would try and be as detailed and filtered as possible with your targeting. Like you do a lot of like audience research about people that might be interested in your product, even like potentially where they shopped, what they spent money on, where they traveled. You got really detailed about that, about that persona. And you were really sort of fighting with Meta to try and get to that audience that you knew was, or you hoped would be the best performer. And you'd be split testing audiences all the time, like try where they travel, where they shop, what they drink, what they eat, what they buy. And you'd have multiple ads running against each other and understanding, like targeting different pockets of audiences. And that's completely changed now. So now you're just going a lot broader, allowing Facebook to do its own work and find the best audiences, and giving it sort of smaller nudges on the way.
Okay. And when we used to talk about the difference between Google ads and Facebook or social ads or meta ads, we used to always say when you search for something on Google, like lady's handbag, you've probably got an intent of buying a lady's handbag, right? And if you saw a lady's handbag on Facebook, it would be much more speculative advertising. But you've said that it's become a lot less impulse purchasing now. There's more of a dynamic there that's changing. Can you explain what that is and how that's evolving?
Yeah, I think like there's sort of two or three things at play there. Like one is you still do have a measure of impulse purchasing, but probably like that threshold of like price is a bit lower.
Any
So
idea what that is? Like as a guide? I mean,
about £30, I'd
okay.
say.
Yep.
So under £30 is like an impulse purchase. You get a lot of like first time buyers, top of funnel traffic, don't know a lot about the company, like the product, like the video. The product page is well high converting. The website looks, is high trusting.
Mhm.
They go through and make that purchase. After that, you start to get into a bit more of a considered purchase, and that's when you start to sort of have to do the retargeting, and like there's more ads and more funnel at play.
Yeah.
And then also I'd say like there's been a change in like behaviors in two ways. So one is like our parents have all bought something on Facebook a few years ago, and then it takes 60 days to arrive, then it breaks in 2 days. And they realized, it wasn't the greatest purchase. So there's been a lot more sort of like learnings there from there.
Not
Like,
just parents. I've done it. I've bought a few Christmas gifts that I think, oh my God.
oh,
Yeah.
I say it was broke for someone else, not even yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so people have learned from that. So that kind of level of impulse purchasing has changed. And then also like just economically, like people are more considered over the last year or two about like what they're actually going to purchase. So they're not just coming in, chucking away, 30, 40, 50 quid.
Mhm.
They are actually considering like, is this going to arrive on time? Do I actually trust this company? Do I actually want this product? Like, is it better than another product? And then people are like making a lot more purchases on that second touch point. So they've seen a video, engaged in an ad, click through to the website, then they get retargeted and they're like, no, I do like this company. I do like what they do. I'm seeing testimonials. I'm seeing more positive reviews about it. I'm going to make that purchase now. So
Mhm.
that's changed, I think, as well in terms of buying behavior.
It does seem a much longer game. Like before, you wouldn't see the same ad twice, really. But now, like if you engage with something, like it's there, it's staying in your feed almost on a permanent basis until
Yeah.
something else is in your kind of like intent circle. But I think that was again, you break this down into a sort of 3-step funnel. That's how you are now changing the way you target your Facebook audience. And the first bit, like you said, starts with awareness, right? So it's you're paying to make people aware of your brand, your product, your service, or whatever it is. And where does it sort of lead on from that?
Yeah, so I think like there's a lot more of a journey now. I've been doing this for a while, and it's like feels like going back in time, but like 7 years ago, maybe like now, you could literally just put up an ad, a video, send it through to a product page, which wasn't particularly well polished or put together very well, didn't have much conversion rate optimization work on it. And because of the lower competition, like you were going to get sales. It was more down to like what your cost per acquisition was going to be rather than whether you got sales at all. And that's completely changed now. So like there does need to be that funnel where in the past you just send out an ad and say, I want to get a purchase, and I'm going to use the purchase optimization, which is like the highest intent people and the
Mhm.
most expensive audience to target. That's much harder to do, if not almost, very difficult to do. And
Mhm.
so you need to take them through this funnel of like awareness, consideration, and conversion.
Okay.
And that means that they go on the journey with you. So the awareness is like, you're serving them a video, you're introducing the product and the company, some backstory. I'm seeing things like founder videos working very well at the moment,
Mhm.
voiceovers. So the founder talking about the product and their backstory. So you're just getting people interested, drawing them into that trust factor, and giving them a sort of taster of the company, the background, and the product.
Mhm.
And then the consideration might be more like testimonials or actual, specific products, serving them like the catalog of all of your products, and being a bit more, taking that step further. And then the conversion is the latter stage, which is literally like, shop now, go to this product, you've viewed this product, or you've done X and Y and Z, so you might be ready to make that purchase. And it doesn't have to be a big extended funnel, and it doesn't need a huge budget to be able to do that, but it is actually just being considerate of that journey, and that people do need a bit of warming up now before they hit that buy button.
And when we were talking last week, you mentioned that the aim of the game has changed, in that you want to build as many people in the kind of middle zone as you can. So rather than sort of send to many and a percentage will buy, part of your role now is actually to bring people within your audience group, and then you've got that audience group to market to at a slightly better rate in the future. That was my understanding of that, right? But you probably explain it better.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think the one thing that you can control on Meta is like your custom audiences or your middle of funnel audiences.
Mm-hmm.
So those are people that have watched a percentage of your video, have clicked through to your website, have engaged with an ad, have engaged with you on your organics. And you can do all of those in percentages. So you can, target the people who watch 50% of your video or 95% of your video. You can target everyone who's looked at your entire website, at product pages, the people who are the top 25% of time spent on your website. So you can really like break it down and, even sort of qualify those in terms of intent. But that audience becomes yours. Whereas like with the top of funnel traffic, you're fighting with everyone to try and get that attention. And that's where costs go up. That's where like the auction prices are fluctuating all the time. You're trying to sort of fight with anyone else who's been in the market, spending money on ads, just about to spend money on ads. It's much higher competition. But with that middle of funnel, those people that have engaged with an ad or spent time on your website, that's yours. You've got them like in a pocket of audience, and then they become your sort of champions, that if you then remarket to them in the right way, they are much higher or much more likely of making a purchase. And you can also like send updates to them about a new product launch, a change in a product, some company news, and they already know about you, so they're much more likely to engage with that or be interested in it. And I just feel
Is
like,
that cheaper to market to that audience when you've got
yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah, it's generally cheaper audience, because again, you're not fighting in this top of funnel like competition auction. That's yours, that you've kind of built.
Okay. Because my example is when I've been looking at trainers recently, and I've seen a lot of unique brands, sort of, not the traditional Nikes, Adidas, and stuff like that, but some more independent brands being served ads. So I've been quite interested in looking at those. And I've noticed the ones that I've looked at, I'm then starting to be served different content about those particular brands. And some of the other brands that I've not looked at have kind of fallen by the wayside. So is that because I've dropped from awareness campaign into this middle bracket where I've got higher intent?
Yeah. So if you're being served other parts of the other products or other different elements of the company that they offer, then yeah, you're being taken through that funnel.
Because I'm
If you
considered now. I'm in that
Yeah.
consideration stage, right?
But did you mention also there's some that they haven't sort of retargeted you? That's just like poor ad setup.
Oh no, I mean some that I've like not engaged with, I've
Okay.
like not seen again. So there's certain brands that I've gone, oh, I don't like the look of those, and then I've not seen them again. But the ones I've, like we were talking about earlier, the ones I've dwelled on, or the ones I've maybe clicked and engaged with to see another color or something like that, all of a sudden I'm seeing those a lot more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
So
because I've dropped into that middle funnel part, which is a consideration.
yeah, 100%. And the ones that you haven't engaged with, like they've got no touch point to retarget you with anything. So
Yep.
if you haven't engaged with it, watched much of the video, clicked through to the website, they've got no data on you to be able to like retarget an ad. Whereas obviously the ones that you are, they're then taking you through that journey in that funnel and offering you other products, other aspects of the company.
Does it lead the top of the funnel, the awareness, And does that make it that it becomes a little bit clickbaity or a little bit because you have that on YouTube, right? You have the funny face and like the over exaggerated statement, and then you watch the video and it's barely any news. So, like, is that what this is encouraging in a way or not?
Slightly, yeah, because obviously you got 1.7 seconds, so you've got to do something within that first couple of seconds to get someone's attention.
Yeah.
So a lot of videos that I see work very well kind of like work backwards. So something, the most sort of like eye catching element of the product is at the beginning of the video, and then you kind of like backtrack a little bit and then get to that climatic point of the video again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there is an element of clickbaitiness to it, but unfortunately, like that's the way that kind of Meta
Attention gets
design
grabbed.
their algorithms. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
also like how you get rewarded for that.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of led down that way in a sense. But also I would say like it doesn't have to be clickbaity in a bad sense. Like, you could show something amazing in your product in the first couple of seconds, which doesn't have to like mislead anybody or be cringeworthy or anything like that. It still could be quite engaging, exciting, and humorous. So it doesn't have to be used in a negative sense.
And when I drop down to the third stage of the funnel, then the conversion, am I then even cheaper to market to at that point? So are we going like progressively, because I've dropped into that audience that I'm in the keep net, if you like, and now I've gone to the conversion stage. Does it become less expensive to market the further down the journey you go or further down the funnel you go?
It should be, yeah. It should
Yeah.
be cheaper, but the only time that potentially becomes a problem is that the uh, that audience, the last stage of an audience, and this is where sometimes budgets can be a constraint, is that audience might be very small.
Mm-hmm.
So you might be like retargeting the same group of people a number of times. So
Okay.
you want to like have a balance of having enough people that can go through the funnel so that these latter stages remain cost effective,
Okay.
and having enough people to actually market to.
Well, one thing I saw, which I thought was a brilliant touch, was when you go through from a Facebook ad and you click to shop and you land on the product page. Obviously, you were within, if you're on your phone, you're within Facebook or Meta's browser. But I've seen it where it will then tell you the friends that have also liked that product. Like, and it will say, a little image of them and then a number of plus other people also like this brand or like this product. And because you're on the retailer site, I thought that was really clever that you feel like you're on their site, but your friends are being referenced as kind of ambassadors for you to purchase something. Is that within like some sort of retargeting or within some sort of Facebook ad control that does that?
I believe it's just a plugin, if it's what I'm thinking it is, in terms of the actual on the product page of the website.
Yeah.
I believe that's a plugin, like a Shopify plugin.
Okay. Because that was a pretty smart thing. I thought there's obviously referencing back to your friends list and out of your friends list who has purchased or liked that brand.
Yeah, I mean that's how Netflix grew, was like the social proof, like network effect, whereby any film or anything that you watch got shared onto your socials, or you could even see on Netflix who had already signed up. That was a big part of their growth.
Okay, great. There was a stat that you put forward, which was 40% click through. So the emotional benefit led headlines drive 40% higher click throughs than product led copy. So we've obviously had a number of these podcasts, and one that we did right at the beginning was addressing pain points and letting people kind of understand that you know what their problems are, you know what they're looking to solve, and if you talk to them about those, which is an emotional side rather than the product and what the product does or the tech of the product, you will actually engage with that audience a lot better. Is that how did you arrive at that stat?
Yeah, so that stat again was from a Meta report that they released last year, but you can see it again in like the ads. So I know I keep coming back to this like 1.7 seconds, but it's quite important. And again, it shows like you're going to get 40% higher click through rate if you're talking about calling out that audience, calling out that pain point that resonates with someone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're talking about nutritional bar, you're not just saying it's amazing, it's really tasty, you're talking about the USPs or the product of it. You're actually talking about like what it does for you. So like post gym workout, it's feeling like you need some energy or something like that. You're actually calling out some of the pain points, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where the emotional side of the ad and the video resonates better than just talking about USPs and what the product is and what it does.
Okay. And I think we're a big advocate of that because you're either selling. I used this in a presentation the other day. You're either selling the sausage or you're selling the sizzle. So
Yeah.
people want to know like the facts and the weight and the dimensions and the color and the fabric or whatever. And in that case, you're actually selling like the product or the sausage. But if you're selling the sizzle, you're selling the emotional and how you feel and how it makes you feel better or how it improves your life. And you're saying that the ones that focus more on that emotion, again, a much better uplift in terms of click-through rate.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like there is definitely a place for like the product description and what the product does and the USPs and everything like that. But again, that's later down in the funnel. And you initially want to get someone just interested in your video or your product. So talking about that emotional aspect is again the sort of scrolling stopper. And then you click through, then you look at the website, you start to absorb more information. You're looking at the product descriptions, so that comes later. Like people still want to understand, what it actually does and the USPs of it. But, that 40% higher click-through rate is from probably that awareness aspect of it. So top of funnel again.
Okay. And Meta, you hear about investment in AI is either ChatGPT, Elon with Grok, or it's Meta and AI. So what are they doing to embrace that, and how's that going to change in the kind of ad aspect to Meta?
Yeah, so they've kind of been doing quite a lot over the last couple of years anyway. But I think there's going to be potentially some massive changes in the next 2 years. So what they've always wanted to do, in my opinion, which they've failed at, is open up Meta ads to small businesses, right? So
Okay.
they've always said, look, that we want to support small businesses so that you can like run ads. They tried to do that with like that boost button on organic posts,
You're
and
not a
like,
fan of those, are you?
no, that's the cheap. I think it's the cheekiest, like cheekiest button
Take
ever.
my money. Take my money.
It is, yeah, because like there's no like you can add some filtering to it, but it's not very easy to do that. Not many businesses do it. They hit that button and it just goes to everyone, and they tend to find like the cheapest traffic, which is the lowest intent people. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just like it's a bit cheeky, I think. So that was what they were initially, I think, trying to do to like open it up to small businesses. Then they tried to like make the platform more user friendly, but I think actually made it harder to use. So like even just setting up your first ad, like putting a pixel on your website,
Mm-hmm.
building an ad, building audiences, like it just got harder and harder. And they changed the layout of it all the time. So like, even I'd be like screen sharing with a client and buttons had changed and I'd be like, I look like a complete novice because everything had like moved around. So that was always difficult. But over that time as well, they've tried to like make things more automatic. So you can give it some ad copy and it'll give you like 5 suggestions. You can give it an image and it'll give you 5 variations of that image. It will, you can give it a link and it'll give you the option to send it to different parts of the website depending where it thinks it's going to get best results.
Okay.
Uh, Audience is the same. Here's my audience, but click a button. If I think I can get results elsewhere, then we'll try and do that. but you're still within Ads Manager, and you've still got the constraints of trying to like build an ad, which is not very easy, even though they're trying to make it easier. What I think they're gonna do is like it's gonna be like more prompt based. So you're basically telling Meta, this is the type of ad that I want to build. You know, you can give it as many suggestions as you want or as little as you want, and it will build that ad for you, and it will know on the prompt that you've given it the audience that it should probably go and look for, what your intent is, like what type of traffic you want. Um, that's where I think it's going. If it gets to that point, it will completely open up the market because people won't have to go in and click this button, upload this image, you know, make decisions between what type of ad it is. You'll just literally type it in and it'll do it for you. And then that'll flood the market, I think.
Yeah, I think you almost needed a degree in ad, Facebook ads, Google Shopping ads to be able to set these things up, and that's where our services, got carved out of, wasn't it? Ours was from a development perspective. You look at the latest Shopify theme, and you can tell it to create blocks for you. So you can tell it to create content blocks, and how they work and function, and it will just deliver that through its own AI and program those blocks for you. Same with yours. It's just eroding on some of the things, some of the skills that needed a human to do that. But they're already doing, you mentioned earlier where they're taking over how the ad is served. Again, I guess that must be sort of AI focused as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's already super, super intelligent. Like at the moment, you basically inform it what type of ad you want. Like, do you want to serve a purchase ad? Do you want to generate leads? Do you want to get video views? Do you want to get engagement on your ad? And it knows historically from people's behavior where to serve that ad for that action to take place. So it knows it
I think
already.
what you said a minute ago makes complete sense. That I can't really remember the last time I saw a small business advertised. Like it seems to have been a lot more bigger brands, or I know it's very easy for a small business to look like a bigger brand now with the way design's done, the way websites and products are made and everything else. So a lot smaller brands give off the perception that they're bigger, but I do think there is a lot of maybe service-based businesses that haven't got that exposure on Meta, and that's what's going to maybe change with what you said about the way AI is going to do that. It's going to allow smaller businesses to take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. Like the service-based side of things, like I think it's just harder for them really to get much traction with like audiences. So obviously product-led businesses, they have easier content and like more to kind of discuss. Obviously like B2B as well is like, you can still get great results from B2B. It's just harder. And if you're now telling Meta what you want it to do and how you want to get your message across and who your audience is and what you sell, and it goes away and like finds those audiences and delivers that ad, yeah, it's going to make life a lot easier. And just bring a lot more people into the ad platform as well.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, I think it would be great if you could tell people how's the best way to get in touch with you. We'll obviously put these details in the show notes at the bottom. But if you want to pick up the discussion and talk to Olly more about the Facebook and Meta ads that he can help you with, I think there's a lot that he's given today in terms of learning how you can get people into that 3-step funnel, how you can get people into the KeepNet, the way that Meta's changing. So if you want to pick up that discussion, how can they get in touch with you, Olly?
Probably 2 best ways is like LinkedIn. I think I'm actually under Oliver Whittle on LinkedIn. So
Oliver, God, I haven't heard you use that for a while.
I think only my mum.
Very professional.
Probably need to change that. I think actually I think I'm Olly Whittle, sorry, on LinkedIn, and then I think my URL is Oliver Whittle.
Perfect.
And then ollywhittle.com, you can go on there, and there's some information, also a contact form. But yeah, I'm super happy to just answer any questions or anything that I've talked about, which you want to dive deeper in. Happy to speak to anyone on that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when we both started 15 years ago, didn't we?
Yeah,
and
with our
back then, hey,
With our smart cars.
With our smart cars, yeah, buzzing around town. Well, you were called Swarm, so you were buzzing around. And I think the services, the online services, have actually broken down into really specific specialists, and you've remained a really specific specialist. God, it's quite hard to say. In terms of meta ads and social media, and to stay on top of all of the things that are going on. And much like us for e-commerce, you have to be dedicated to that one thing. So if you do want that really special advice, not just where things are going, I personally, I can't recommend anyone better than you. So yeah,
Thanks.
We always partner together on great stuff. So really enjoy working with you, and thanks so much for doing today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Perfect.
Follow the Real eCommerce podcast and visit realagency.co.uk for more e-commerce content like this.